It's the money. Just fat.
Insight, foresight, more sight. The clock on the wall reads a quarter past midnight.
It is 1:45 p.m. on Thursday, January 26, 2025. Mark Kulak, Houstonic.live. And since everyone loves to talk about biological weapons, let's throw one out there because I think we actually might have found one. This is an article from 2024. See, CD Press. I forget what that stands for. It's from Nature. Title of it is Interleukin, I think it's pronounced 1 beta, could be wrong there, promotes esophageal squamous, I'm sorry, mispronouncing that, cell carcinoma growth and metastases through FOXO3A by activating the PI3K-ATT. So I don't know what any of that stuff is. And it's like I said before, you have to have some common sense when it comes to when to lean and feel confident that you're not getting over your skis and when not to. Okay, I've never said at this age I'm never going to know how to fly a plane, a real plane, and that's okay. There's a lot of things I'm never going to learn how to ski. There's a lot of things I'm not going to learn how to do at this age, and that's okay. There's a lot of other things I still want to learn. So I have to pick and choose based upon the time that I have here with my family and with this life. Although I can't fly a plane, I can tell you that it's not safe or advised, and maybe not even possible to land a large 300-something passenger Air Plus plane on a windy, non-level, wooded how would you say, a road in the country. And I think that's pretty much common sense. I don't know how to fly a plane, but I can say that's for sure. There's a lot of details about flying that I won't comment on, but there's a couple of obvious things here. So I don't know what all of these particular things are here, the FO, XO, 3A, pathway, etc. But you can boil this down, the title of this article, and again, it's a 2024 article, to, yes, it is possible to create or to encourage the development of an esophageal cancer through transfection. With the right transfection agent, you can give esophageal cancer. And that they show it here. They show it with mice. So, without getting too far over my skis, there you go. It's possible to do this. In other words, it's possible to give somebody cancer. If you can find a way to be able to create the transfection agent, we know they can make transfection agents now because at least of the non-placebos, how many mRNA shots were given? Look at how many people in laboratories have used transfection every single day of their lives, and they've been doing so for decades. Transfection is a real thing. It's a real thing. So if you can just find a way to create an agent, how would it be inhaled? Would it be ingested? Probably more likely ingested. Where do you get it from? I don't know. Maybe someone gives you some chocolate. Maybe someone gives you extra candy. Hey, I was you're at a conference with someone. Say, hey, I noticed that they had an extra couple of drinks out there. I noticed that you've been drinking some sparkling water. Here's a can of sparkling water. Save you a trip. There's different ways it could be done. You could be in someone's house and maybe without them around, without them looking, put something on their toothbrush. There's a lot of different ways you could, depending on how strong it is, give someone an agent which can cause esophageal cancer. It's possible. I don't know exactly how much it would be, how unappetizing it will be, but I'm not sure that those hurdles are going to be big enough. All you really need, because when it comes to giving someone cancer, if you could give someone cancer, and it looks like there are ways, at least practically anyways, it could be done without their knowledge, esophageal cancer, because that's something that's accessible from the outside, at least via food. It's not going to kill them right away, and more likely it's not. If it doesn't work, right? It's not a surefire way to kill someone either. It might actually be the case that some people would ingest a product and have maybe a carcinogenic growth, a tumor growth, maybe somewhere in their throat area, maybe cause them to become groggy and have a difficulty breathing or talking after a while. But if you didn't get it tested, no doctor is going to tell you that that's cancerous. However, if it is something that's giving you problems, maybe it's causing some additional stomach acid. Maybe you're having to take more antacids, oddly, curiously, whereas you've never had to take any before. And if you do go to a doctor, if you do have someone test it, it may actually test positive for being a cancer. And that right there, it's what is cancer, what is not cancer? Well, the odds are it will be registering as something cancerous. And now you're going to be given treatment options, which include chemo and other things which will weaken you and potentially kill you. You can kill someone with cancer if you can be certain that the cancer will take off well enough and they'll be diagnosed, and in particular, the likelihood that they're going to get treatment for it, the more likely they get treatment, the more likely they'll die. I think this is an important subject because we have to now consider the possibility that the very same people that are leading the medical freedom movement in the United States of America as part of this deception, this Trojan horse, which has come in through Donald Trump, with or without Donald Trump's knowledge, I don't know anymore. And honestly, I don't care. All right? I mean, how long can you possibly just keep going defending the deaths of tens or hundreds of several 100,000 people and just be easy on the president because you want your guy to win? At some point, it doesn't matter anymore. He's just another person. He's just another one of the 300-something million American citizens. He doesn't deserve, to be put on the pedestal above everyone else. Anyways, though I respect the position of the presidency, albeit still. So, would it be possible, or should say, has it happened, where people have potentially been poisoned and killed, murdered, assassinated, using transfection agents to give them esophageal cancer? Is that possible? Well, it's possible, and I even think right now it's likely that that has happened. I believe it has happened. I believe that people in the health freedom movement, I think Brandy Vaughn's case is very clearly a fentanyl poisoning. I'm surprised no one has looked at it. I understand maybe her ex-husband doesn't want to think about it anymore, but I've never seen such a clear case of a fentanyl poisoning without actually having the medical records, or I should say a test for it. And it could have been cart fentanyl as well. There's different variants of it, which would have knocked her out and would have provided the exact same symptoms. However, there's it's not just the Brandy Vaughn deaths, it's in particular Tony Bark's death. So I just posted, if you go to my YouTube page, I've just posted a full capture of all of the photos from Instagram that Brandy Vaughn posted up until her death, as well as the photos from her Facebook page up until her death. It is noteworthy. I'm not going to show it here, but you can look at it yourself, that Tony Bark, someone tried to impersonate Tony Bark by creating a Tony Bark MD Facebook page, which went live, I think, on January 25th, 2020. I remember Dr. Tony Bark died when? March something. Let's go to the exact page here. B-A-R-K. B-A-R-K. R-R-K. Come on. There we go. Tony Lynn Bark. It's not the best page I have for her. So we found recorded interviews of her, and you can see that she is working at a level. Her cognitive level is way higher than anyone else in the medical freedom movement. Okay, it's a bunch of ass clowns right now, not able to accomplish anything. And then there's Tony Bark, who is obviously way more attractive than just about anyone else I can think of anyways in the medical freedom movement, but is also far smarter, and she's an actual real MD. She never lost her practicing license. She was in this movie, she was in another movie in 2013 that I just posted that I didn't know existed. Let me see here. Matter of fact, if I go to my page, I can find it by going to playlists. And if I look at the videos from 2025, it's one of the last videos I just shared. Almost there. She was in the movie Silent Epidemic. And that's pretty fantastic. It is pretty... You can watch it on... these aren't my copies of it. This is actually mostly on other people's channels here. But if it's already available on one of these platforms, I will link to the other person's. But it's also available on stream.gigohome.bio. Let's see here. I thought I had the notes here. Yeah. So this is a 2013 movie, and it has in it, it's directed by Gary Null, and it has in it Nancy Banks, Tony Bark, Mary Holland, Brian Hooker, Susan Humphreys, Robert Johnson, I don't know who that is, Meryl Nass, Tatiana Ubuka Clinch. I don't even know how to pronounce that name. Alan Phillips, Scott Rayner, Janine Roberts, Vera Sharav, Sherry Tenpenny, Lucija Tomlejadonevek, I don't know how to say that, Eva Vanimi, Andrew Wakefield, and Etta West. And what's noteworthy is that with Tony Bark here is by far and away the sharpest speaking person here. Now, it's also noteworthy that if you watch this, if you listen to Susan Humphreys, she's actually a lot more articulate here than she is today. It's almost as if she's slipped. She's made negative progress in 12 years. I don't know how that's possible. Maybe if you have a brain injury. I'm not trying to tell a joke, but how else do you have negative progress in 12 years, yet still claim to be the hero? Not to mention, what's even more disgusting is how can you actually be on interviews today, and this is Susan Humphreys, 12 years after this movie, claiming to be a big victim, claiming to be, buried with respect to censorship. And yet you know that other people that you worked with were probably murdered. And you won't even mention their names. What a disgusting, disgusting thing to do. But anyways, we're bringing all this up because Tony Bark did, and again, remember, Tony Bark, she's at the center of the attention here. When they're doing the CHD photos, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Mary Holland, who's the star of the show in 2019? It wasn't Robert F. Kennedy Jr., everybody. It was the electric, magnetic, highly intelligent, incredibly healthy, non-drug addicted Tony Bark. Tony Bark wiped the floor with all of these people. They are all a bunch of, seriously, non-achieving loser clowns. This is the real medical freedom of, and all of them are at risk right now. I don't know who she is. I won't speak for her. I don't know who he is on the far left there. I won't speak for them. But all I know is none of these other people would have gotten anywhere so long as they were buried in the shadow of Tony Bark. And she's the shortest person there. She's in heels. She's still the shortest person there. She is magnetic and electric. You watch the videos of her, I'm sorry, you cannot get your eyes off of her. I don't know if you're a man or a woman. This isn't a crazy, amazing person. She and you have stuttering the stuttering Kennedy back there, who right now has done so many steroids since then he's almost unrecognizable. And Mary Holland, my goodness. Mary Holland barely looks like a woman here. I just have to say it. She really? Anyways, so you could see how this is going to be a little bit of a problem. And then sure enough, here we are, November 22nd, 2019. Tony Bark has esophageal cancer. Gee, I wonder how she contracted that. Suddenly she has all this acid reflux and discomfort in her throat. How did she get it? If you look at her Instagram and if you look at her Facebook photos, you'll find someone that ate so healthy, it makes most people who eat healthy feel like junk food addicts. Her exercise, her strength, her ability to do ropes, everything, off the wall. And suddenly she's got cancer? Gee, I wonder where that came from. Now, it's interesting that Tony Bark herself even threw out the idea that maybe she got her cancer through a poisoning. Maybe she was attacked. Well, she tried initially using homeopathic ways to address it. I guess that wasn't successful enough. So eventually chemo was used. And then sure enough, as no surprise, she dies on when? When is the date of her obituary here? Look at David Gorski's tweet, by the way. I'm sorry to hear that Tony Bark is ill, and I hope she beats the odds of this kind of cancer. I feel for her son. That being said, the meme shows a very unfortunate message that's very common in the alternative medicine, victim blaming. All of the pro-vax people attacked her. She's gonna die. So when did she die? Last mention of her in a post of being alive is January 17th, 2020. and then early March of 2020. Of course, James Lyons Weiler of CHD, he does a tribute video of her on March 10th. So I think she died on March 3rd. So he's doing a video of her, and we know that they've worked together. I think he actually is such a low human being that he took advantage of the opportunity that now that she was dead, he was going to put ideas into her mouth, suggest that some ideas that were his actually also came from her. I mean, you know, when you're with a team of people that is possibly willing to assassinate people to stay in control and control a message, what's one more piece of shit thing to do to somebody? So you can see she was absolutely, no doubt, very healthy back in, I would say, March and April of 2019. This is March of 2019. This is the time when she would have been the most threat. So it probably took about 2 or 3 months for whatever this agent was to impact her esophagus, to eventually be tested positive for cancer. I mean, who knows, right? Of course, it's going to depend upon how it was applied, because most people don't get esophageal cancer. It's very rare, actually. But it's kind of odd that one of the most important people that would have overshadowed everybody in the medical freedom movement died at the right time to allow them to control the stage and never again mention Tony Bark. Unfortunately, Tony Bark hung around for a little while. She did hang around for a little while. I should say, not Tony Bark, Brandy Vaughn. Brandy Vaughn became good friends with Tony Bark. Now, Brandy Vaughn's not a doctor, but she had a message that was simple, and she kept trooping on. And I guess Brandy Vaughn at some point was also going to be a problem. So that's why in early December of 2020, really just, 6-7 months after Tony Bark dies, Brandy Vaughn gets killed. And I'm just saying she gets killed. She's murdered. She's probably murdered with a fentanyl poisoning. Believe it or not, the scumbag Kevin McCarran actually suggested that Brandy Vaughn probably died of COVID. You know, sudden COVID, everything's fine, and all of a sudden you just die of COVID, just like the Chinese did, just walking home from the grocery store one day. Funny that Kevin McCarran is very friendly with the traitor of America, Charles Rixey. Now, I'm not saying that there's any connection here, but I remember Charles Rixey used to stay at Jonathan Cooey's house once. And not long after that, Jonathan Cooey started to develop an enormous growth in his throat that caused enormous long-term health consequences that eventually he coughed up. Now, if you actually watch some of my videos at the end of 2022 and early 2023, it's strange because you'll actually hear me starting to lose my voice too. I don't know if it's connected or not, because I remember Charles Rixey sat next to me like 3 times at the Children's Health Defense event. And about 72 hours after that event, after leaving there, I was on a couch, I had a temperature, and I was passing out like every 5 minutes, and I thought I was going to die. Interesting. Unfortunately, I guess unfortunately for them, I'm a big guy. You know, I got height, I got a big chest, I got a little extra pounds at the waistline, unfortunately, but I'm a big guy, and I probably just had more meat on the bones and height and bones overall than whatever, if there was an agent, what it could do. I suspect something like that. Whereas, unfortunately, Tony Bark is was just a tiny little thing. Now, I know this sounds very conspiratorial, but Tony Bark is not the only case here. I'm not just jumping to conclusions here based upon the story of Tony Bark. I'm also talking about, because remember, if there's any other person other than Robert F. Kennedy Jr. who is critical to maintain the narrative, critical, I mean actually helped write the script, it is Dr. Robert Wallace Malone. A man who is also, by the way, at that Children's Health Defense Conference. A man who basically writes the script for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and everyone and a lot of other people there. And Robert Wallace Malone's claim to fame is that he co-authored, or I should say co-created, or was the inventor of mRNA technology. Now remember, he's not the only name on that paper. In fact, he's not the primary name, nor is he the last name. He's just a name. The primary name on that paper was actually a scientist named John Wolfe, W-O-L-F-F. So let's go back up to the archive here. Okay, let's go back up to the B's, and let's scroll over to the W's. U-V-W. W-O-L-F-F. Here we go. John Asher Wolfe. Born 1956. But died April 17th, 2020. That's interesting. So John Wolfe died on April 17th, April 17th. And Tony Bark died on, let's see here. When did she die? What's her exact date? I think it's March 3rd. Yeah, so John Wolfe, who's probably one of the biggest threats in the world to Robert Malone, he dies on April 17th, 2020. Primary name, by the way, on the paper that Robert Malone claims to be the sole author of. John Wolfe, by the way, is also the man that Dr. Joshua Lederberg chose to use as his co-author and only co-author for a very important paper on the history of gene therapy. Joshua Lederberg didn't use Robert Malone. He went after John Wolfe, W-O-L-F-F, of Wisconsin. University of Wisconsin. Now, John Wolfe, he dies on April 17th, basically, 5 or 6 weeks after Tony Bark dies. Now, you know what's crazy? And Tony Bark, of course, as we said, is probably the biggest threat to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., which means Tony Bark is also a threat to Mary Holland and all the people that Robert Malone could control, such as, I don't know, for example, Meryl Nass and everyone else at CHD, Susan Humphreys, etc., etc. Wouldn't it be odd if John Wolfe also died relatively young of unexpected esophageal cancer? Because that's exactly what happened. Two of the absolute biggest nuisances and most important people that could have thrown Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Jayanta Bhattacharya Stanford India infiltration, and Robert Malone off the rails. Those two people died 6 weeks apart from each other, both getting esophageal cancer, both getting it sometime around March or April of 2019. Esophageal cancer, something which can be given to somebody through a transfection agent. I've suspected John Wolfe was murdered for a long time. I just couldn't quite figure it out. And here we are with one of the dynamite people. Everyone should just... Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is literally a piece of shit on the heel of Tony Bark. I'm sorry, it's true. And what you saw today in the last few days in these ACIP hearings and the CDC hearings is a total coup of the United States Health Institutes. We are all prisoners right now. I actually struggle to even believe the United States of America is still alive. We're all prisoners. We've all been tricked into this. I believe it's very possible that I was hit with one of these agents as well at the Children's Health Defense Conference, no less. It's the only time I ever tested positive for COVID, 3 days after that event. I've never tested positive again. And that COVID test, I was explosively COVID positive. Now, I'm not saying that I believe in the novel virus that is causing an RNA pandemic. What I'm saying is whatever the test is, or isn't, whatever the test is, it exploded out of the box. I was so positive for it. Unnaturally positive. I wonder how many other people who would have been, nuisances died of esophageal cancer. over the last few years, or in particular 2018, 2019, and 2020, maybe even 2021. I think they were hoping Brandy Vaughn would just go away. The problem with esophageal cancer, though, is that it's slow. I mean, a year. If it's successful. If it's not successful, it's going to slow someone down, but that's about it. Very interesting things to think about. Everyone wants to talk about bioweapons. This is what a bioweapon would look like. Bioweapons do not work at scale, but they can work on a personal level. Everyone should be talking about Tony Bark all the time. Every time I see a CHD video, if I have a few bucks, I'm going to pin a tweet on their ass that says, Tony Bark, remember Brandy Vaughn. CHD right now is nothing more to me than an organization that's trying to create cover and get people distracted. But for me, I'm going to use it as a billboard to remind everybody of Tony Bark and Brandy Vaughn. In particular, Tony Bark. And John Asher Wolf, rest in peace. If you read this guy's bio, Robert Malone doesn't hold a candle to this guy. He was the real brains behind this. Now, I'm not saying that John Wolf would have signed up to enroll the general population without their knowledge into transfection. Believe it or not, there's actually a lot of geneticists out there who have morals and ethics. There are. But maybe, when some of them stand up like this or get in the way or threaten control, you got to be taken care of. I wonder if he was at least given an option to stay quiet somehow. And I wonder what that have looked like. How does that look? Because I don't know anymore. I keep thinking that, there's at least some, because, wet work is not easy. I guess it is easy if all you need to do is give somebody a transfection agent and then have them die of cancer, hopefully, not long after that. So this show is a memorial, is in memory of Tony Bark and John Asher Wolf. Both died within a year of esophageal cancer, several weeks apart. Two of the biggest nuisances of what was going to become the Robert Malone and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. fake medical freedom, fake anti-vax, fake Save America group. And we all got played. And since early in the pandemic, I can't tell you guys how many times I've said the name of John Wolf over and over and over again. And you know what? Your other citizen journalists that you give money to and think you're going to save you wouldn't say the names. It's almost as if they're also on the take from the Robert Malone network. Now Robert Malone's calling shots. He just approved flu shots today and monoclonal antibodies for the flu for, 8-month-old babies. There's your medical freedom, everybody. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. All right, that's my quick show for today, guys. Thank you. Take care. Stay well. God bless.